Hi guys. Another exciting Friday night in quarantine, right? So I thought I would do another video. So tonight I want to talk about Gilcrease. The Gilcrease house, located adjacent to the Gilcrease Museum, in my opinion, is probably the most haunted house in Tulsa. I say that because we were the only team allowed in there to investigate, and when we did, the quality and the quantity of data that we got far surpassed places we had visited a dozen times. So that place definitely had some craziness going on, and I've got some stories I'd like to share with you. Not a lot of tragedy associated with the property. Generally, if there's a major haunting, there's generally some kind of tragic event that's associated with it. The closest I could find was the house that sits on the property. It was built in 1913 by Flowers Nelson. He was an attorney here in Tulsa that was building the house for him and his beloved fiancee, Carrie. And he was building it so they would have somewhere to live happily ever after once they wed. Unfortunately, Carrie died a very tragic, sudden death during the construction of the home, and Flowers could not bear to live there without her. And so he sold the house to Thomas Gilcrease on December 26, 1913. They said Thomas was just driving by, fell in love with the native sandstone. The sandstone that house is made out of came right out of the Gilcrease hills behind it, so pretty cool. And they said that was the major draw, that Thomas Gilcrease fell in love with the house due to the native sandstone that it was made out of. Not a whole lot going on with Mr. Gilcrease. He was a pretty up and up guy. He did have a wife, Norma Smallwood, for a while, for 5 short years in 1928. That was 19 years younger than him. So that's probably about the most scandalous thing he got into. Couldn't find a whole lot of problems with the property or anything associated with it other than, like I said, the death of Carrie, the guy who originally built it, and his wife. Thomas Gilcrease did have a heart attack inside the home in 1962, but other than that, there's really not a whole lot of tragedy associated with that home, and not too much I could find with the land associated with it. But I will say again, I think the Gilcrease house is probably the most haunted house in Tulsa. So a couple of the hauntings that happened there, believe it or not, it has a phantom cat. During one of our investigations, we were sitting in the foyer area and we heard a very loud meow. I looked at, I had my, one of my members, Darren, and he was a huge skeptic. And I looked at him and he looked at me and I said, "Did you hear that?" He goes, "Yeah, I heard it sound like a cat." I was like, "Yes." The other members, who are no more than 3 or 4 feet from us, were like, "What are you guys talking about?" We're like, "You didn't hear that?" Sorry, my bangs are driving me crazy. I said, "You didn't hear that?" And they said, "No." Darren was even like, "You didn't hear that. It was a very loud meow, a very loud cat. Nobody heard it other than me and Darren." We had a couple of recorders running, and so I picked up one of the recorders and I pressed pause and stop and rewind or whatever, press play. You heard nothing other than me going, "Did you hear that?" And Darren go, "Yeah, I heard it sound like a cat." That's all you can hear on the tape. You can't hear the cat's meow. We had 3 tape recorders running. Not one of them picked it up. I can't explain that. If it was just a random old cat walking out outside, that recorder should have definitely picked it up. So pretty strange, right? We had all of this up on a website, my pit website, back when I used to manage the team and we did investigations on a regular basis. We would keep our investigations up on our website. All of our findings, readings, we'd have a whole report, the whole 9 yards. And when I put it up there, not long after I did, I got an email from a lady that said that she was visiting and was peeking in the windows and saw a cat right on by the front door. I can tell you right now, that place is locked up like Fort Knox, so there is no stray animals getting in or out of there. So I do believe Gilcrease has a phantom cat. I heard it. One of our investigations, we were sitting in the foyer area. We're just kind of hanging out and waiting for something to happen when we heard what sounded like 2 men arguing. Sounded like a very heated argument going on, and I wondered if it was the guard. We paid for a guard to stay with us until 5 in the morning, and this was probably around 2 or 3. And we hear 2 men arguing, and I was concerned that that guard was outside, in trouble. So I got up, walked through the butler's pantry, out into the kitchen, opened up the curtains to look outside. The guard was asleep in his car. The noises had stopped, and I noticed they were coming from the right. And to the right of me was a breakfast nook. It's a little square room, just a little room with lots of windows right off the kitchen for them to eat breakfast. And the doors were closed. I sat there and debated for a few minutes. Do I open them? Do I dare do this? I finally opened it up, peeked inside, kind of looked around, didn't see anything, closed the door, started to head back to join the crew. And as I'm going through the butler pantry, something comes swooping up behind me really fast. And you know when something comes up behind you, you know that sense of your personal space invaded. And I turned around, whipped my finger out, thinking that there was a team member there sneaking up on me, trying to be funny. I whipped my finger out, don't do that. And nobody was there. But somebody was there. I could totally feel someone right by me, breathing down my neck. I could feel their presence standing right next to me, just like as if I was right up on you. And it was creepy. And as I was kind of tiptoeing, kind of on eggshells back to the rest of the team members, I heard very distinctly a voice tell me, "You've worn out your welcome. It's time to leave." Yeah, it kind of freaked me out. As soon as I got back into that foyer area, Tina, my best friend who's helped me start Pit, she was just like, "I'm ready to get out of here." I was like, "What?" Another member spoke up. She goes, "God, I'm glad you said something." She goes, "I've got the most uneasy feeling." She goes, "I'd really like to leave too." Another member spoke up and said, "Yeah, I'm for that. I'm ready to get out of here." Everybody was feeling so uncomfortable, and we paid for that guard till 5 in the morning. But I'll tell you what, the boys were over there knocking all the equipment into the bags really quick because we were all feeling some intense get the hell out of here energy. And so we did. We respect that which we search. So we didn't push it. We just said, "Okay, you don't want us here. We've worn out our welcome. We're gone." I hadn't even told the team yet that I heard somebody say, "You've worn out your welcome." I had just rejoined them and was fixing to tell them that when they all told me they were uncomfortable and everyone wanted to leave. So I thought that was kind of interesting. During one of the investigations, my big skeptic Darren that I talk about, I miss him. Love to have him back on the team. But we were upstairs in the south bedroom and he made a little comment, "Find me something lost," because I was talking about the children. Now, it used to be an orphanage back in the 40s. Mr. Gilcrease, when he was not living there, created an orphanage for the underprivileged children of the 5 civilized tribes. And it was co-ed. The boys lived on a little area on the property and the girls lived inside the house. And so I felt like there was some playful energy there that night. I made a comment about, "I think the kids are here." And so Darren just blurted out, "Find me something lost." We're like, "What?" He goes, "Oh, well, if there's really some kids here, find me something lost." Okay, Darren. So we're up in the south bedroom when he poses this question, and we do our investigation. We go back downstairs to take a break, and lying in the middle of the floor in our area where we, our home base area where we set up all our equipment, lying right in the middle of the floor is an earpiece. An earpiece that goes to one of those great big huge beta cameras that the TV stations use. And we were just filming in the Gilcrease house the weekend before with Fox 23 when we were doing our series Haunted Tulsa with them. And sure enough, they lost an earpiece. There you go, Darren. Somebody said we found your something lost. He goes, "Oh no." Being a skeptic that he is, he goes, "That's not what I meant." So we're all like, "Okay, Darren, what did you mean?" Darren says, "Well, I want something of theirs, something old and of theirs that's here and lost and maybe nobody knows about." Okay. So we started doing our investigation again, and we ended up back up in the south bedroom where he posed that question in the first place. And as we get up there, finding in the middle of the floor, it was not there before, a round wooden wheel. Looked like it went to an old truck or something. Pretty crazy. We didn't keep it. I don't steal from investigation sites. I wish we had kept it. It was just a broken little old wheel. I don't think they would have done anything with it or even if they cared. I almost wish I wish we would have asked if we would keep it, but we didn't. But anyway, Darren found us something lost. He wasn't as convinced as we were, but we were just like, okay, that's pretty weird. So we heard lots of major noises. I mean, one time we heard a bang upstairs with nobody. It was just us in the house. That's it. Like 4 or 5 of us downstairs getting ready to do our sweep, and we heard boom come up from upstairs. It sounded like you had one of those great big huge tall filing cabinets and someone just pushed it over. That's the equivalent of the boom I put it to. It was loud and crazy. When we were filming Ghost Moms there, I don't know if anybody knows, but I had a TV show about me and my team called Ghost Moms, and it was about us being soccer moms during the day and having this weird ghost hunting hobby at night. It came out in 2005 around the same time as Ghost Hunters. And one of the TV crew guys is all like, "Oh, do you really believe in this stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Is anything going to happen?" I said, "I don't know." And he goes, "I don't really believe in any of this." And as soon as he said that, a bunch of sheetrock that was laying up against the wall, because they were doing renovations, it was laying this way. It was sitting behind him and went boom, the total opposite way of which it was laying. It was laying up against the wall. So how can a bunch of sheetrock, like 4 or 5 pieces of sheetrock, be laying this way up against the wall and fall this way? I don't know. I have no clue, but it fell behind him, made a large bang. It made him jump, scream like a girl. Me too. He stayed close to me the rest of the night. So he never asked about it being real again after that. I thought that was very interesting. That was really crazy. Dan McPike, who's a former curator there at the Gilcrease, told me the story that he was closing up the house one evening. It used to be where the Historical Society was. They used to office out of that house there at the Gilcrease. And so it was one evening when they had all closed up, and he had to go in there and make sure all the doors were closed and windows and, you know, a temperature set or whatever. He had to the final little things he had to do to close up. And he said he did all that, went through the house. He said as he was getting ready to leave out the front door, he decided to turn around and take one last look around and make sure he didn't forget anything. And he saw Mr. Gilcrease standing at the bend of the stairs. The stairs go up, they bend, and go up some more. He said he was standing at the bend of the stairs, looking straight at him with his hat, grabbed it, tilted his hat, and walked back upstairs. This is a former curator and a very credible person, not somebody that's going to make things up for whatever reason. Lastly, not lastly. One of the other crazy stories is they actually installed a whole alarm system inside the Gilcrease house right after doing some renovations. And a lot of it was motion detectors. Right after setting those up, the south bedroom motion detector goes off. And if you'll notice on our investigation reports, we had a lot of paranormal activity going on in that south bedroom. I don't know what's going on with it, but we had a lot of issues with that. So, but ironically, it was the motion detector that went off in the south bedroom. So they called the Tulsa police out. Tulsa police came with a trained police dog. They get to the Gilcrease house. They start going inside. Guns are drawn. They send the dog upstairs. The dog gets halfway up right there to that bend of that stairs, starts whimpering, cowering, runs and turns around and hightails it out of the building, refuses to go upstairs. A trained police dog. That's pretty telling, don't you think? The police went up there, guns drawn, totally expecting to find something crazy. Found nothing. So if a trained police dog refuses to go upstairs, you know there's got to be something going on. Animals and children are said to be the most receptive to the paranormal. So that's pretty crazy. The curators also told me they had this very delicate collection that they brought in. And they put it up on 3 glass shelves and totally roped it off because it was so delicate that if you touched it, you could break it. So they didn't want anybody near it. And they set it up on these 3 glass shelves. And they went in one day. One of the pieces on the top shelf had been taken off and had been put on the ground, neatly tucked under the bottom shelf. They thought, that's weird. There's no way. If it would have fallen off the shelf, it would have broken, shattered into millions of pieces. They just couldn't understand how that piece ended up on the floor underneath that shelf. It just couldn't just happen. So they put it back, kind of watched it like a hawk. Didn't, nothing happened to it all day long. Through the evening, they watched it, nothing happened. They went in the next day. Somebody turned their eye off of that for just a minute because that piece had once again been taken off of that top shelf, put on the ground, neatly tucked under the bottom shelf. This said, the curator told me, he goes, that kind of prompted me just to look into it a little bit and just see. Sure enough, he looked into it. That piece did not belong with that collection. He took it out. It was never bothered with again. Pretty crazy, right? I think that was definitely Mr. Gilcrease's way of saying, hey, my name's on this building. You better get it right. He's definitely still there watching over a lot of things. Lastly, we had a Tulsa police officer join our team for a while. His name was Jim. And when he joined our team, he wasn't quite a police officer yet. He was still going through his cleat training and doing all that stuff. Just so happened to get a job as a night watchman at the Gilcrease. Go figure. There's a big turnover of night watchmen at the Gilcrease, but he was able to get a job there. And he said one of his first couple of nights there, he was just walking around the Gilcrease, just kind of checking things out. He stopped at a certain painting. It caught his attention for whatever reason, and he stopped and looked at it. And he said, as he was looking at it, a gentleman walked up behind him in a suit, tie, and hat and said, "That's a Remington painting. In all of Remington paintings, he hides a rabbit. Can you find the rabbit?" Jim said he turned around, looked at the guy and said, "Who are you? What's your name? You're not supposed to be in the building. You got to come with me." He puts his hand on his gun, says, "I need to, find out what you're doing here, blah, blah, blah." He said the guy looked at him square in the face and said, "Can you find the rabbit?" Jim said, like an idiot, I turned and looked at the painting again. Boom, the guy was gone. He turned around, looked for him, couldn't find him anywhere, got on his little radio, started talking to the other guys, going, "There's somebody in the building, he's got a suit and a hat, and he just talked to me, and blah, blah, blah." And the other guys are going, "Jim, we're sitting here watching you on the closed caption, watching you talk to yourself, but nobody else is there." And he's like, no, there's somebody here, there's somebody here. And he was, they're all thinking the new guy's loopy, and he's pretty adamant about what he saw. Spent all night searching the museum, and every bathroom, nook, cranny, closet, corner, you name it, he searched it. Couldn't find it. At the end of his shift, he had to do an incident report about what he had seen. And as he's writing it down and writing a description of the man, his supervisor, kind of peering over his shoulder, said, "Jim, come with me." Takes him to a little area out in one of the offices and pointed a painting of Mr. Gilcrease and said, "Is that the gentleman you saw?" And he said, "Yes, that's him, that's him, that's him." And his supervisor said, "Well, Jim, that's Mr. Gilcrease." And Jim, totally, being a new guy in town, was like, "Why didn't he just tell me who he was? Why did he run off so fast? Where did he go? How did he do that? Blah, blah, blah." And that's when they go, "Oh, well, that was his ghost. He died in 1962. Jim freaked out. He said that was his first real experience with a ghost. And he said, "Terry, he was as real as you and me talking right now." So it freaked him out pretty good. Made him want to join the team. That was one of the reasons he looked us up. So a lot of crazy stories coming out of the Gilcrease. I have a ton more. In our years of doing tours and taking people there, we've had several tour participants have had weird experiences there at the Gilcrease. Everything from being touched to loud bangs on the the mausoleum door where Mr. Gilcrease is buried. So if you get a chance and you want to get out and about and do something and you want a real haunted place, go by the Gilcrease house. I'm telling you right now, that place is very, very haunted. So I didn't give you a whole lot of background on Gilcrease because it is kind of boring. He just got his riches and oil and art. So nothing real tragic associated with all of that, but definitely one of the most haunted places in Tulsa. So hope you enjoyed that. Oh, we got some EVPs real quick. An EVP from Gilcrease. We kept hearing noises in one of the rooms, and when we heard this noise, we'd follow it into the next room. Heard a noise in that room, follow it into that room. Anyway, we end up following this noise around. Finally, I said out loud, "We're not trying to chase you." And you can hear Mr. Gilcrease very angrily say, "I don't care."
"I'm not trying to chase you."
Do you hear that? I point when he says it. I'll do it one more time.
"I'm not trying to chase you." "I'm not trying to chase you."
Did you hear that? Insane. I think he cared, but I don't know. Pretty weird. Another one that we have, Tina got it on her video camera. You can hear us talking in the background, but somebody very close to the camera screams, "Help me!" And we don't notice it at all. We're still talking. Listen. Oops. Hear us just talking away. We did not hear it at the time. If we would have heard somebody scream, "Help me," you would have heard some cuss words out of that. It would have probably startled us. Listen again. You can hear us talking. That's us. Yeah, we didn't hear nobody yelling help while we were there. We have some other ones. I don't think they're going to hear them real well on this just because I'm doing this in a different way. I'm not playing the audio at the same time. So I'm playing it. You know what I mean. Anyway, this last one I'll play you real quick. You can hear a woman. We're talking a little bit. It gets quiet and you hear a girl go, "I'll protect us." That wasn't any of us. That's us. I'll do it for you one more time. Sorry. I'll point when she says it. That's just us. But you hear the woman go, "I'll protect us." We're kind of wondering what she was protecting them from. Was she protecting them from us or protecting us from something? I don't know. We have a few more from Gilcrease that you'll have to take a tour to hear those. Okay, I promise. That was shameless. Shameless plug, but you know. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you guys are having a good Friday night, and hopefully this quarantine mess will be over soon. Bye.